I like to use a round knife when I am making belts or straps. I just bought a new one and this video shows how I assembled my raised and lined leather edgeguard for it. I made a wet mold from 1/4 inch MDF using a laser cutter and included decorative 1/8 inch raised shapes and earth magnet mounts using laser cut holes for 1/8 inch birch dowel reference pins. I also cut 1/8 inch acrylic cutout and glue up jigs at the same time to make the project assembly easier. One small round 3mm magnet in the front is for a blade lock, and two 3mm rectangular magnets in the back are so I can attach the edgeguard to the outside of my toolbox for quick access. After the leather was molded and completely dried, I used an acrylic template to trim the leather. Then I stitched, marked, and dyed the top surface and sewed in the first layer of the lining. The knife itself will rub against the leather so the flesh side of a solid piece of a 3 to 4 ounce leather is sandwiched around the blade. The opening hole is cut out after it is glued in, but since the leather will be folded, I only glue the area of the leather that will be stitched so I can glue the leather in flat and tight after it is folded into shape. Applying pressure will help the glue bond better and always allow the glue to dry. It is a good idea to stitch around the opening so the lining does not move when the opening is cut out, and to finish the opening edge before it is sewn together. Sand and bevel the edge surface, then burnish and apply edge paint is a popular way to finish the raw edges of molded leather shapes. I glued and stitched thin strips of leather on either side of the opening to help keep the top open so the knife can easily be inserted into the edge guard, and left the ends to be rolled over and glued when the gussets are attached. When you glue in a lining leather, a glue-up jig helps to create even pressure to create a better bond. Glue the flat gusset to one side and stitch mark the holes through both layers to make it easier to punch the awl through the last layer after it is glued up. Small electrical clamps work great to glue the seam straight. To close the gap at the top, glue and stitch a small piece of leather with simple back stitching. Stitch the base of the fold, then pass one of the needles through the middle and over the seam, and stitch like you normally would, and punch the stitching holes as needed. In this case it was 3 stitches. Then back stitch to the starting stitch and stitch the other side. An excellent tool to use to open up the hole for the needle to pass through is a scratch awl. Be careful not to use too much force and break the seam at the joining stitch. A tip to match the stitching holes is to go very slow as you are pushing your awl, and look for a tiny bulge where the tip is about to come through. At this point you can adjust as needed before breaking the surface. Also try to pull your awl straight back, never at an angle as you retract your awl from the hole to avoid breaking the seam. Scoring a line helps to keep your stitching from breaking through the top of the seam too, and have your needle ready to pass through the hole while it is easy to find, and don't have to be opening the hole again with your sharp awl. To finish the edge guard, cut away the extra gusset leather, then sand, edge bevel, burnish, and paint the edges, and rub on a little leather conditioner. Earth magnets are handy to use, but they are also breakable, so when you use them in an edge guard, you do not want to be overly rough with them.